I've been teaching here at Questrom since 1999. I primarily teach economics and quantitative methods courses. And since our goal is to keep this interview short, I encourage people who want to know more about unemployment to read my book, Business Macroeconomics, which you can find on Amazon. We have official unemployment rates in the United States back to 1948 and unofficial rates back to 1900. So we pretty much have a good idea what the unemployment rate is for the last 120 years. If you look at the average, the mean value, it's 6.5%. If you look at the median value, which is when you sort everything from highest to lowest and take the middle value, it's 5.5%. To give you an idea what those numbers are like, right now when we're recording this, in the middle of the COVID epidemic, the unemployment rate is 6.9%, only a little bit above the long-term average. Back in April of 2020, at the beginning of the COVID epidemic, the unemployment rate shot up to 15%, but it fell back rather quickly. It was the highest point since the end of World War II. But since we have unemployment rates for the past 120 years, there's been a number of other experiences with much higher unemployment rates. During the Great Depression, 1932, 1933, the unemployment rate was 25% for almost 2 years. Unemployment can change very rapidly. Let me give you an example from COVID. In February of 2020, the US unemployment rate was a bit over 3%, which was a multi-year low. A few months later, when COVID started raging and states started shutting down, their unemployment rate jumped to almost 15%, a jump from 3% to 15% in just a few months. The most recent numbers we have are October's rate. We're down to 6.9%, which is about half of what it was in the springtime. I don't think the president or any other politician has the power to modify the unemployment rate or the unemployment rate's definition for political gain. And the reason is that the United States and all the other major countries in the world, they follow something called the ILO, the International Labor Organization's guidelines. The ILO basically comes up with a set of guidelines and all major countries follow them so that we can directly compare unemployment rates across the world. So, for example, if you hear unemployment rates in France, you can compare them to US numbers. If you hear unemployment rates in Germany, you can also compare them to the US and to France. Survey takers contact about 60,000 households every single month in the United States. And in the adults in those households, they're asked a series of questions, and this allows the government to classify each person into one of three categories: employed, unemployed, or not in the labor force. The employed, they're people who work for pay, they were self-employed, or they had a job but were away from work. For example, they were on vacation. The other two categories are the unemployed and not in the labor force. The unemployed people, they're people without jobs and they're actively searching for work. The people not in the labor force, well, that's everybody else. It comprises retirees, people staying at home to take care of children, those people who are sick, and other people who cannot work for any other reason. The government wants to be really precise. They don't want a lot of uncertainty associated with the unemployment numbers. Plus, by doing so many households, they're able to come up with unemployment numbers for some of the large states like California, New York, Texas. But while the government tries to contact 60,000 households, not everyone's home. So in a typical month, it gets a bit less than 50,000 households responses. There's two reasons why you should care about the unemployment rate. First, how easy or hard it is to hire workers, it's directly dependent on the unemployment rate. When the unemployment rate is high, it's easy to find great workers. When the unemployment rate is low, it's tough. The second reason is that pay is dependent on the unemployment rate. When the unemployment rate is high, it's relatively easy to find workers and they're not looking for a lot of extra money. When the unemployment rate is low, those workers you do find typically want higher pay. What's important for managers and people who work in HR to understand is that when you hear the unemployment numbers, you're not understanding how many people are searching for work. You're only understanding a small subcategory, because the unemployment numbers are only job searchers who don't have a job. And that's a small part of job seekers. Many people who are looking for work already have a job, but they're not counted as unemployed. Teaching at Questrom has taught me it's important to summarize. So let me give you 5 points. First, unemployment is important because it influences hiring and pay. Second, the typical unemployment rate since the 1900s is somewhere in the 6% range. Third, the definition of unemployment, it cannot be changed for political gain. Fourth, the number of people unemployed, it's only a fraction of those who are searching for work. And last, the unemployment rate, it can change really quickly.